Okay, today I want to talk about, I think, probably the most important part of any business. And this is obviously very important for cafes and restaurants. And most people are thinking about it or not thinking about it, but I think it should be discussed. It's super, super important, and it's art. And it's the art of the business. And I'm not talking about like the art of the deal or whatever. It's the art of how you're making your drinks. It comes down to the art of your utensils, your cups, your restaurant, your cafe interior, how you're actually dealing with your customers, the art of that. So there's I think many things that are overlooked in their businesses that people don't realize that it is art, and it should be art first. Before we go into business and we're trying to like create this money, this money machine, I think that art is more important, has a bigger effect on your success than maybe the price of your drinks or your food or whatever you're doing.
Well, I think a lot of times it can start out that way, where people get excited about providing a service or a product because it feels creative to them or artistic, and then they get into it and then they get overwhelmed by the other details, which are really the costs or how much the profits are. And although I do know that's important in order to stay going, but sometimes the art gets lost when they focus so much on that other one. And then at that point, maybe it affects the amount of money they're making because they've lost sight of the whole reason that they got into business, which was to try and be creative.
Yeah, and I think that like a lot of people, like the chefs, like we look at chefs as a valid art. Like a chef, when he creates a food and he does a design, even on the condiment or whatever, people go, well, that's very artistic, and food is always considered very artistic. But I think what's important that people are missing is the interior of a cafe. It's, the feeling that you get. I've seen really artistic cafes, really artistic situations where I was like, oh my gosh, this is like the coolest atmosphere. And of course, we talked about this in other videos, the experience. The experience is art. And I think that if you're passionate for the art of your business, I think that you'll be successful. I think that is it's a symbiotic thing that you have with your customers. They're passionate, you're passionate. We've even said that in our marketing. It's like I want to attract the person that's just as passionate about my art, and I want them to be moved, and that's what art does, is it moves you. It creates an emotion or creates an experience that you take with you when you go home.
Well, and I agree it's important. And another way to see it too is, how many times have you went to a place that looked really good on the outside and seemed like it was going to be an amazing experience, and then you got in based on that and then realized that the food wasn't very good. The service was bad. Or the food was just mediocre, and then you probably aren't going to go back.
You probably aren't going to go back, or you're going to tell your friends what a horrible experience it was. Like the food was mediocre, or the food was presentation wasn't very good, or the cup of coffee I got, because we're in the coffee business. We are actually, if you think about it, we're in the beverage business. And there's a lot of our very successful customers. They always tell me, and I've heard this more than once, they say, I'm in the food business, but I make all my money on the coffee or on the liquor or whatever. But I think that it is important. It's like, have passion and have like this excitement towards the artistic aspect to it.
Well, you have to make sure to keep track of both things and keep them balanced. Because sometimes people will start out thinking, I want to make it look really good, and then we'll get the food thing organized later. Or they focus a whole bunch on the food and drink because maybe that's their passion, but then they fall short in the area of the design of the place, or trying to get people to recognize them, because people are like, oh, I heard this place is really good. They make really good barbecue, or they make really good burgers, but you can't get past the plastic furniture or the plastic tablecloth to go there to say, wow, I found out this place is really good. You're never going to know.
Well, and I think that like on our other episodes, we've talked about marketing, or bringing in a graphic designer, or bringing in somebody that's an expert at that type of art. And because that is art. I mean, your menu's art. How you designed your menu, whether it's, real basic or it's very elaborate, that also is art. And that translates into success in the end. And
well, there's so many variables. And when you walk away from the place, you'll remember something. Hopefully. Hopefully you're going to remember, and then that would also remind you to go back there again. And you might not go back there again if you just liked one aspect. You might, a lot of times you and I will go places and we'll say, well, what do you want to do? Where do you want to go? And you're looking for atmosphere.
Right.
But you want the food to be good too.
Well, it's, I think cafes are considered, entertainment. I mean, and that's another thing. It's like when you go to an art gallery, you're getting entertained. When you go to a restaurant or you go to a cafe, you're getting entertained along with, buying the beverage.
Well, it's not enough
right.
to just get one thing anymore.
Exactly.
And I think in the world of millennial minds, everything is so based on the senses of everything. I can't just go there and it's not good enough to sit in this really dark restaurant and eat a good steak.
Right.
You need to have more going on than that. Otherwise, they're not going to pay attention, or they won't make time to pay attention. They're like, yeah, I can get this, I can get that anywhere. And so now, as a new business owner, or as a person that might apply a cafe as a business,
right,
you got to think of more than just, I make really good coffee.
Well, and bring people that are experts at it. Don't, none of us, we all have skill sets. I'm good at this, you're good at that. Don't expect yourself to be like the greatest, interior designer or the greatest graphic designer or don't, and we talk about that in the other videos as well. Don't bring your nephew in to design your logo.
Right.
Be careful of what you're doing, because it is, the experience is so important that, and your ticket, your customer's ticket to buying, they buy a ticket when they purchase a meal, they buy a ticket when they purchase a drink, to have an experience in your restaurant or your cafe. And I'm just blown away at some of the great experiences that you and I have actually had over the years with our customers. It's amazing how many great experiences. We've had some bad ones, but I would say the majority of people that go into business aren't thinking about it. And I'd hate to say that most people are thinking about this. Most people don't even realize.
Well, there's so many things to think about that I think people, once they get into the situation, they're in it, and now they realize they're in it, and now they have to make decisions on where they want to put their money,
exactly,
where they might skimp because they don't have enough money.
Yep.
And so then they tend to skimp in areas
that are very important,
that are just as important as the places where they're putting all the money.
Exactly.
And so they have to know that, and they don't maybe realize the importance of the way the front sign looks like, or
right,
the person behind the counter, or the way that the people are dressed behind the counter. There's certain things you got to think about.
And presentation. You can also, people are art. So you see very artistic, very passionate people, and they're characters.
Mm-hmm.
They're characters in a movie.
Right.
That's what I always crack up. Like, some baristas look like characters. You're like, wow, that person is very interesting looking.
Mm-hmm.
And that's actually another thing, is hire people that are either passionate, they either have a personality that's interesting, or hire somebody that has maybe a physical and a personality is even better, total bonus.
Mm-hmm.
But, and I'm not saying only hire beautiful people. I'm saying hire people that, that are bringing something to your business as well.
Right, that are going to add to the experience, so that it's all a package, no matter what you're doing, right, whatever the product is you're selling.
And I think that what we're trying to, the reason why we're having this conversation is we want people to think about these things. It's like, think about these things before you go into business, and mm-hmm, think about these things as a very important aspect of your business. Obviously, you want to actually look at the demographic, look at the people in your area. If you're in a blue collar area, you want to appeal to that. So your art, the artistic aspect of your
right,
business should appeal to that, or not. Or
you might be in a place or a situation where certain things aren't necessary.
Right.
So there would be no need to be that concerned with it.
Right.
And to be more concerned with other things. So what you're really trying to do before you even get started or even spend a dime is understand, who are you serving?
Right.
And don't make the mistake of thinking that you're serving people that you would want.
Right.
Like, or don't provide a service that you want. Think about what they want, and think about if that's who's there.
Right. But I do think that the if you think about it, if your brain is always thinking, I'm going to open this business and I'm only going to open for myself, I think that's I think it's good. There's nothing wrong with that. But you do kind of alienate some part of the population that might have an experience in your cafe or restaurant that So obviously we don't want to alienate people, but you want to make sure, I think, that you look at the art and be passionate about the design, of your drinks, of your layout, of your menus. Again, all these things that are very important, even down to the logo. Back to graphic design. But I think that we should probably, as business owners, be also thinking about the future and like, what's the next thing? What is the next artistic thing? And do a little research about what's the new trends. What are the, what's happening now? Is it this or is it that? And I always that's what you do. I mean, you constantly are looking at what are the trends. That's what you're actually passionate about. What other people's passions are, and then try to kind of think forward and say, okay, if we present this cafe or restaurant in a certain way, it's gonna appeal to this crowd that's coming, or this mindset that's coming.
Well, I can already say, just from an example of the way a cafe looks in general over the years, when you go into a cafe now, you just see a lineup of people at a bar with computers in front of them.
Right.
It never used to be that way 15 years ago.
Right.
15 years ago, people were sitting outside, under the umbrella, drinking a different kind of drink. Whereas now, you've got more of a workforce. They're all wearing headphones. Nobody's talking to anybody.
Nobody's interacting.
They're working. Right. They're still buying the product, though, and they're still enjoying the experience. And it will still continue to draw in more of those people with their computer and their headphones.
Yeah.
So if you know that, and you know that your neighborhood cafe is about that, then that's what you would facilitate.
Well, and look at your furniture. Look at your, your presentation of that. Make it.
Look at your table space. Is it gonna be big enough for someone with a laptop?
Right.
And if not, then you need to rethink that. If you have plastic tables that aren't very big, and you put 4 chairs around it, that's only gonna house maybe 2 laptops, if that's your demographic.
Yep.
If you don't have that, or if you're trying not to do that, then you don't have to do the big, long, wide bar.
Well, and you don't put the USB chargers, the phone chargers.
Yeah,
on
at every seat.
And there is, there's 2, schools of thought on that, on the internet cafe style, or the hangout cafes, or the elegant cafes. There's many different ways you can present a cafe or a restaurant. Obviously, you have to make a decision what's best for you.
Right.
But I think it's the art factor. Just think about is art first. Don't worry about the money. The only thing about it is the art. Then go for the money will follow the art, because people do appreciate art. Hopefully, you're making decisions on that art that does appeal to the masses. It's no different than museums. They have different art sections in different parts of the museum, and that appeal to different people. Different. You've got the old art, new art, whatever your thing is. It really is just art. I mean, we are this whole thing. The equipment we sell, Polish espresso machines, our coffee, our design, how we're presenting it, what we're doing as a company is all art. So let's not forget that. That is art first and foremost.
Right, and I think that's an important way to start out any kind of project or business venture, is to decide if it's art before you even get started. Because I think that's what draws people in. It's what people want to do, is have that experience, or they want to feel like they're doing something unique and different. And we've come across that where we wanted to present something, and when we looked at it, we didn't feel like it was creative.
Right.
And
exactly.
So we had to change it.
Exactly.
And then once we changed it, we realized, we just took something that's kind of mundane and boring, and all of a sudden we made it kind of cool and fun.
Yeah.
And you can tell the way people respond to it, they are realizing that.
Well, and you see it. You see you hear it from those customers, and you hear what they say and what their reaction is, and that actually is that's a reward. More than just the money, it's the reward of getting people to their approval, I suppose, or they're passionate and they're looking at it and saying, "Hey, I love your art. I love what you did." I think that.
But they're certainly not going to say that about something that's completely boring
or generic
and is happening on every corner of the street. It's the same thing. They're not going to comment and say, "Wow, this was a really great mundane experience. Thank you for providing it."
Yeah, thank you for the mundane. But I think that I think it's just be different. That's also a part of it, is be different. That's what art is. Each art style is different, and be different and strive for that. So find art in your business.
Right. I like it.